Good morning and welcome to Vibrant Morning. Now, Vibrant Morning brings you what is in the People Daily newspaper. Welcome once again to BTV, your home live TV. Now, BTV brings you Vibrant Morning, that is what is in the People Daily newspaper. We are just giving you a review of what is in the People Daily newspaper. It is you to grab a copy and read more extensively. Now, this morning, I'm your host, Gagi Isaiah. My co-host, Lennox Odede, is not with me today because he is outside there to gather more news of what's happening in Migori County and in Migori Town. Now, looking into the cover page of the People Daily newspaper, People Daily newspaper to see what we expect in the paper. One is the big story of the day is more Raila men set for Ruto cabinet. The power deal, Azimio leaders expected to reap big after changes that will see some ministers shown the door. The story is on page 4. And most likely beneficiaries are 1. Timothy Bosire, Peter Munya, Rafael Tuju are expected to be in the cabinet after the below, that is Health CS Deborah Baraza shown the door, Public Service Justin Muturi shown the door, and Tourism CS Rebecca Maino shown the door. We are not saying that they have been shown the door, but there's likely possibilities that they may be shown the door in case there is the reshuffling of the cabinet that is about to kick off. The story is on page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. Please grab a copy and read more comprehensively. Still on the cover page, we see Auditor General and Arts wrote in KPA, Kenya Post Authority, and JKIA, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. That is in page 8 of the People Daily newspaper. And also we see on page 2 still, Kenya glaring at vaccine shortage. That's a story in page 2. We'll give you more of that details. And on the cover page, you see hope for Kenyans as life expectancy improves. That is all that are in the cover page of the People Daily newspaper. Please remember to grab your copy and read more comprehensively. Now, moving on to page 2 of the People Daily newspaper, where we see vaccine co-financing poses major challenges for Kenyans. Now, delayed payment can lead to vaccine stock out. There is a 3-month hiatus between payment and co-financing. Story by George Kibaso. Kenyans is once again staring at a possibility of routine vaccine shortage for having not contributed a mandatory 1.6 billion as per of its co-financing agreement with the Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization. Now you can also check a copy and read that. We hope Kenya is going to move with speed to realize that, to make sure that this shortage does not happen in our country, and that is our Republic of Kenya. Now we move on to page 3, where we see Bungoma woman secures 5 million grant for leather work expansion. A story by Tony Wafula. Now Rose Walela, a Bungoma-based businesswoman who uses locally available material to craft leather shoes, has received 5 million grant from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment to boost her business. That is very positive, as we see government is coming in to boost individuals who are doing business. Please remember, you can grab a copy and read more comprehensively. Now, still on that page 3, building of Bomas complex to start in fortnight, Ruto says. Story by Lucas Baraza and Alvin Mwangi. Announcement comes a day after state trashed Rigathi Gachagua claims that Bungoma had been sold to a Turkish investor. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story. The building of the Bomas International Convention Complex will begin in 2 weeks as the government gears to transform the facility into a world-class conferencing hub, President William Ruto has announced. You can also check and grab a copy, read more comprehensively of that story in page 3. Now moving on to page 4, where we have the story, more exits to settle in Raila allies in the cabinet. Now anticipated reshuffle has triggered anxiety, especially among PSs perceived to be allies to the impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Now the story is on page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. Now as he moves to solidify his leadership with his eyes set on the 2027 general elections, President William Ruto is this week expected to carve out a strategic path that could see him drop at least 4 of the cabinet secretaries to create more rooms for the appointment of allies of ODM leader Raila Odinga. Now that is a story which I believe is of great importance. You can grab a copy and read of much of that story. Now on the same page 4, we see Ndindi Nyoro put on spot over alleged favoritism. Story by Mercy Mwawi. Now Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro yesterday became the topic of discussion in the National Assembly after lawmakers accused him of favoring his constituency in resource allocation when he chaired the Budget and Appropriation Committee ahead of committee elections today. You can also check that and read more comprehensively. And on page 5, we see Raila now defends alliance with Ruto. ODM leader comes out to defend working relationship with President William Ruto amid grumbles. The story is by Francis Githinji and Faith Masharia. Please grab a copy and read more comprehensively of that story. As we see, Kisii Governor Simba Arati and Ntutu broke peace along shared Kisii-Narok border following clashes. Story by Robert Oshoro. Now normalcy returned to Kisii-Transmara border following clashes sparked by cattle theft. Fighting left 3 people dead, several injured, and sugarcane plantation touched. You can also check that and read much of that story in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. Now we move on to page 6, where life expectancy in Kenya steady with 6 million hitting 75 years. That's big news for Kenya. Country has registered a notable achievement, including reduction in fertility, mortality, and population growth. Story by Samuel Kariuki. The number of Kenya above 64 years has hit 6 million as the country continues to experience improved life expectancy from average of 67 years in 2021 to the current 78 years. Women continue to live longer than men, with their life expectancy increasing from 69 in 2021 to 80 in 2024, while that of their male counterparts also rose from 64 to 75 years during the same period. Now from this research, it indicates that women live longer than men, with their life expectancy also increasing. But the good part of the story is that Kenya is able to sustain the life expectancy of its own. You can check on that story by Samuel Kariuki and read more comprehensively. We move on to page 7, where we see Nyong'o extend welcome to Kalonzo to join Ruto Raila unity. Story by Kefa Otieno. Kisumu County Governor, that is Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, has called on Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka to hold talks with President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga to foster unity in the country. To foster unity for the country's future. Remember, there's been a lot, as Kalonzo has been the first critic to the to Raila Ruto pact, but now we see Nyong'o is calling on him to come down, join hands, so that they see that Kenya remains united. That story is on page 7. Please grab a copy and read. Also on the same page 7, you see budget approvals to take few minutes if automation affected. Story by Rollins Otieno. Implementation of the automation of budget withdrawals will reduce time using manual means, reduce paperwork also. Now the program is to see that you can now, the county government will now work effectively for the approval of the budget. Now story by Rollins Otieno says approval of budget for the national and the county governments will be within minutes of application if an automation project controller of budget COB Dr. Margaret Nyakango is implemented. You can also check that story and read more comprehensively. And also we see expert on page 8. Expert urge government to prioritize eye care as glaucoma case up. You can also see that the national government has been urged to integrate eye care into general health to fight soaring cases of eye disease, especially glaucoma. That's a story by Shaban Omar in page 8. Please grab a copy and read more comprehensively. Now, Auditor General and app wrote in KPA land deals. Now, story by Masi Mwai. Gathungu accuses the authorities of failing to satisfactorily explain why it offered rental facility at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at a low rate. You can also check that story and read more comprehensively. We are going to check much further today. Let me just give you a bit of what we are having in the feature stories, that is from People Daily editorial. Part of what we are having in the feature stories is why society must prepare for the young for leadership. And that's a story by Kennedy Buhere, story from Kennedy Buhere. And now you will read that and find out more. And also vaccination in conflicts, a lifeline denied to millions. That's also on the People Daily stories that you can grab a copy and read. Now moving on to page 13, where we see court dismisses insurers demand notice quashed bid. Old Mutual had sought to suspend proceedings brought by Tropic Air Limited in 388 million case from accident in 2022. Story by Caroline Kubwa. The High Court has dismissed an attempt by Old Mutual Insurance to quash demand notice by an aircraft firm relating to an accident. Now Justice Peter Mulwa dismissed the insurer's application to quash a demand of more than 388 million by an aircraft leasing firm rising from accident in August 2022. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story. GCD officials insist tender awards process done legally. Story by Alphonse Mungao. A senior official from the geothermal development company told the anti-corruption that the process leading to the award of 42 million tender for rig move services fully complied with the law. You can also check that and read more of that story much comprehensively. And we see defamation case filed against Owuor Church. A prelate goes full trial. Story by Winston Chenseremi. Now, a defamation case filed against a senior bishop with the Ministry of Repentance and Holiness Church associated with Prophet David Owuor will go to full trial in Eldoret court as ruled. You can also check that story and read. And also on page 14, where we see Airbnb turned into drug dens. Nakada probe now shows. Report, a story by Zadok Angira. Report have emerged of young people indulging in narcotic Airbnbs, in some incidences leading to deadly overdose and deaths. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story by Zadok Angira. Kenyan stages gender sensitivity approach to tame drug menace. Story also by Zadok Angira on the same page 14. Please grab a copy and read more extensively. Up to help fight counterfeit in East Africa. Story by Gethinji Francis. Please grab a copy and read that. And we move to page 15, where we see humanitarian activity in Nandi puts rare animal at risk, at heightened risk. You can also check. Wildfires, human encroachment threaten the Sitatunga antelopes at Kingwal Swamp. Story by Wycliffe Kipsang. Please grab a copy and read that. Nairobi River restoration plan to take 2 years. A story by Lucas Baraza. President William Ruto on Monday launched the 550 billion Nairobi River regeneration and engineering works program to be implemented by Energy China. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story. It is in page 15 of the People Daily newspaper. As we see on page 16, heat wave hits South Sudan. Women after historic flood. You can also check that. Unyielding gender role aggravated how those already struggling under unequal conditions experience most harm from extreme weather. Story by Alberto Leni. Please grab a copy and read much of that story. As we move also, you also on matters of family, modern family. In modern family, these are future stories which I believe is very, very important. Please grab a copy and read more comprehensively of the stories that are there. Now, let me just give you a story on about one of the stories about family and lifestyle. Have fun times with your kiddo. Do you normally have fun time with your children? We are urged as parents to have more of fun time with your children, with your kids. You can read and get more. And also on page 22, you can also see, I am tempted to take back an ex-hubby who cheated on me. That's a story I believe you can also grab a copy and read. I am tempted to take back an ex-hubby who cheated on me. Please grab a copy and read that story. What advice will you give when it comes to that? That's on page 22. We move on to page 24, where we see taboo. When the preacher eats their own flock. What happens when the preacher eats their own flock? Is that a taboo? That's also a story I believe you can read more comprehensively. But let me give you a brief of what is there in page 24. Religion is meant to promote or to provide hope and guidance. But what happens when some spiritual leaders use it for personal gain? You can also continue to read. In some cases, religious leaders take advantage of their followers' faith, demanding sexual favors. Please, I don't want to continue from there, but read more extensively from that story. Now, moving on to page 25, Business Hub. Uber enters local subscription market with Uber One program. You can also read that story by Ian Okal. Kenya commuters and users of food delivery services are going to make a save from new discount launched by Uber for their travel and food delivery services. Dubbed as Uber One, offers subscription-based services offering exclusive savings on transport and deliveries. You can also grab that and see. And also we also see Middle East based firm acquires Mobius Motors. Now troubled car assemblers resume operation after being acquired by Silverbox, a Middle East investor, for an undisclosed amount of money. Story by Victor Mukabi and Ian Okal. You can also check that. And also look at economic strategy. Garbage to blame Ukraine for massive X outage, experts say. You can also grab a copy and read that of that story. How artificial intelligence, AI, is shaping career path for young people. I believe that's a story that is worth reading. You can grab a copy and read of that story more comprehensively. And also we see on page 27, malls embracing high technology to lure clients and shoppers. You can also check that story by Victor Mukabi. The hub current takes lead in integrating advanced technology into mall management to boost services, drive traffic back to physical retail space. Check on that and read more comprehensively of that story. And we move to page 28, where we see big win for retrenched workers as Stanchart lost bid to stop 30 billion payment. Story by Caroline Mukubwa. Now it was a win for the employees after the Court of Appeal ordered Standard Chartered Bank to pay 30 million Kenyan shillings to return to retrenched workers after losing an appeal case. Judge Patrick Kaige, Lydia Chode and Weydon Corril dismissed the appeal and slapped the lender with the cost. You can also grab a copy and read that story. Still, lawmakers raise concern over SHA's sustainability. A story that is by Victor Mukabi. House Health Committee molds 3 months contribution threshold before getting service from the authority. You can also grab a copy and read that. My Credit extend financial support to education sector. You can also get that and read more comprehensively. As we move to page 29, where we see Trump orders 50% tariff on steel, aluminium from Canada. Americans' move is in realization of 20% tariffs Ontario placed on electricity it sends to northern US states. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story. And also Wall Street trembles as tension rattles investors. Technology stocks led market sell-off as Dow shed 980 points. Nasdaq plunged to 4% during the week. You can also grab a copy and read on page 30 of that. We move on to world news, that is People Daily World News on page 31. 4 killed in Al-Shabaab raid on Somalian hotel. You can also read that. Armed group has claimed responsibility for death of more than 10 people in town of Beledweyne. You can also check that story from Mogadishu. Al-Shabaab gunmen have stormed and laid siege to a hotel in central Somalia as government officials and tribal elders meet to discuss action against their outfit. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story on world news. US expecting substantial progress in Kyiv peace talks. Ukraine and US officials are holding crunch parley in Saudi Arabia focused on mineral deal, ending the war with Russia. That's a story from Washington. You can also check that and read more comprehensively of that story. Uganda deploy forces to Juba as civilian war fears grow. You can also check that story and read more and more. Now we are in the sports, that is on page 35. Sport. Dockers regroup after tough loss. You can also check that. Now Hawks prove too strong for KPA women, using a relentless press to secure a hard fought 58-48 victory. You can also grab a copy and read that story. Equity and Ulinzi Shark dominate handball league, story by Barry Schiller. That's on Sports Matters. Grab a copy and read. And also we see Mukiri succeeds Gachora at Junior Golf Foundation, story by Lucky Oluoch. Kenya Golf Union has appointed Vincent Mukiri as the new chairman of the Junior Golf Foundation, taking over from Regina Gachora, who successfully led the organization for the past 3 years. You can also check that and read more comprehensively. Who will lift the Enterprise Cup trophy? That is, the rivals will be reignited, tempers will flare, and only 2 will march into the final of the event of Rugby Enterprise Cup trophy. You can also grab that story by Barry Schiller and read more comprehensively of that story. Now, Kenyan drivers cry foul over sponsorship struggle. You can also read that story. With just days to 2025 Safari Rally, lack of sponsorship leaves some of the home finest drivers like Anwar, Shegu, uncertain about their participation in the country's biggest motorsport event. You can also grab a copy and read that story. And also on page 30 we see Glasgow's Commonwealth Games countdown begins. You can also read that story and read more comprehensively. And we have a story here which I believe is very important on matters of sports. Sadiq leads Valencia out of danger with 4 goals in 4 ties. You can also read that story. Matters of football. Missing in action. Aboud Omar, Matasi overlooked as McCarthy unveils Kenyan squad. We see Benny McCarthy has moved and is started gearing up for the next game that Kenya is to play in order for the qualification of World Cup qualification against Gabon and Gambia. But we see Aboud Omar and Matasi will not be part of the team. You can grab a copy and read much of that story. How Rwanda lures tourists using sports. Despite offensive in Congo, Rwanda attract athletes, investors and travelers. Story from Kigali. You can also read that story more comprehensively. On the last page of the People Daily newspaper, eyeing real scalp. Rivalry resumes in capital as Atletico welcomes Los Blancos at the Metropolitan for the second decisive Champions League leg. You can check that story from Madrid, where Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid reconvene for the second leg of their Champions League last 16 ties at the Metropolitan on Wednesday night. with Los Blancos leading 2-1 after nail betting clash last week. It is going to be a game to watch. Please grab a copy and read more of those stories. We move to page 10. We move back to page 10, where we're going to bring you the thoughts of the day and the quotes of the day. Now, quote of the day, one is from Education PS Billy Kipsang. In junior schools, we have already provided 16,000 classrooms, and by the end of this term, an additional 7,000 will be in place, bringing the total to 21,000. Our biggest investment is in junior school. That is what Belio Kipsang is saying. And moving on, we move to, this one is from NCPD Director General Mohammed Sheikh, says, through these policies, the county has registered a notable achievement, including improved life expectancy, reduction in fertility, mortality, and population growth. You can also grab a copy and check on that. And also we see one from Narok Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu. We have not heard of clashes for 20 years. Border Peace Committee members know the procedure of recovering stolen cows. Auntie Arati and I cannot agree with that. Do not play with our minds. That's what Narok Governor says. Now we are in the cartoon of the day, where we see a group of people standing, I don't know where they are, common Monainchi, with a lot of questions in their mind. And you see Wanjiku and the gentleman. Moses abandoned us here, and we went back. Moses abandoned us here and went back to Egypt for so deal with Pharaoh. The problem is that he went with a map. Now this is very funny, and you see that signage pointing at Canaan, and this man is saying that Moses has abandoned them and he has went back to Egypt to sign a deal, and he has gone with the map, so they are stranded on where to go. I don't know who this, but he's trying to play saying Raila has moved back to Egypt and has abandoned Kenyans, and he has gone with the map. You can also check that and read. Now, thought of the day from Bob Hoyd. You say, if you are not taking care of your customers, your competitors will. That's the thought of the day. If you are not doing everything to contain, to have your customers, to cater for them, to meet their expectations, your competitor will do that for you, and you lose customers. Now, on the same page, let us now look at what we have, the feature story. KCSE exam malpractice episode 7, that is cure. What is there? I'll just read for you this story briefly. Examination malpractices within KCSE framework poses significant challenges impacting students, educators, and the broader educational system. In this final submission, labeled episode 7 of my investigative series on KCSE examination malpractices, I delve into profound consequences while exploring effective strategies to combat them. Engaging in examination malpractices can have profound repercussions on students' academic and professional trajectories. When grades are artificially inflated, such as upgrading C or C minus to B plus or D to B, student may secure university placement for which they are prepared, for which they are ill prepared. This discrepancy often leads to struggle in coping with course demand, resulting in diminished self-confidence, academic performance, or even withdrawal from university program. Now, this story has been running for now, I believe, 7 days or a week or so, and we have been told of much of how cheating has been existing in a secondary school, in high school, that is as the learner transit from secondary school to the universities. And this we see that is really affecting much of the learners when it comes to a point whereby they are now joining universities. It poses a lot of challenges, as you can see from the story. When somebody who actually is entitled to get a grade of C or C minus, the grade is inflated to B plus, and somebody who is supposed to get D plus, the grade is moved to B. There comes a big challenge when now they get into the university and try to do the courses. You find most of them drop, most of them get out and choose courses that they believe they can fit into. You can grab a copy and read much of that story. We believe it is very important. Now, as we wind up with what we are having in the stories, you can grab your copy and read much more comprehensively. Now, Vibrant Morning comes to a close with that much of what we had prepared for you for today. Please keep reading. Remember, People Daily is free newspaper. You can grab a copy and read much more comprehensively. Have a lovely week. Have a good day. Thank you for keeping tuned to BTV.
You can trust. Welcome to Blackman Digital Graphics. We offer design, printing and branding services using large format printing, offset and digital printing. Our approach to printing, graphics design and branding is top-notch with quality services including roll-up banners, street banners, teardrops, reflective banners, telescope banners, vehicle branding, road signages, mugs, badges, t-shirts, polo shirts, hoodies, pens, letterheads, business cards, envelopes, receipt books, brochures, flyers, posters, calendars, magazines, wedding cards, plastic ID cards, funeral programs, and many more. We also have indoor and outdoor videography, photography, and live streaming services. Visit us at our Migori Market, Onyinjo Bridge, Tiendege Stage offices. Call or WhatsApp us through 0721 379308 or 0736 352224. Connect with us on YouTube and Facebook at Blackman TV. We are on TikTok as BTV Kenya and also Blackman Studios on Facebook as well. Blackman Digital Graphics. Quality you can trust. Welcome to Blackman Digital Graphics. We offer design, printing and branding services using large format printing, offset